I'm going to wait for everyone to join. I just got a question on postpartum weight loss being real. And the postpartum weight loss, or I'll wait for you guys to join. Postpartum weight loss being very, very hard is not necessarily for everyone, because a lot of women don't go into pregnancy healthy. And this is going to be a big dose of tough love for a lot of women, because women like want their babies and they want them now, or they're like, oops, I got pregnant, oops. And I understand that happens, but at the same time, like, nah, it shouldn't. But in our society it does, because women don't understand their bodies. Here's the deal. If you get pregnant when you're not in a place of health, you can have a very hard pregnancy, a very hard birth, and a very hard postpartum stage. It also does affect the development of our children, and it affects their brain development, their development until they're completely developed at 23 to 25 years of age. So we need to understand that we should go into our pregnancy at the utmost health for our own benefit, if not for the benefit of our future children. And our recovery postpartum is completely dependent on our health pre-pregnancy. Pregnancy is very stressful. Birth is very stressful. The hormones post-birth are incredibly stressful. Our progesterone plummets after pregnancy, and so our estrogen is very high. Our prolactin is very high. These are hormones needed post-pregnancy, but they are also very, very stressful hormones. And so if we had a very weak thyroid pre-pregnancy, our thyroid is destroyed post-pregnancy. And so many women who are having a hard time with postpartum recovery are hypothyroid tremendously, have very low progesterone levels, are poor detoxers of estrogen, might actually be struggling with like heavy metal issues because their detoxification was impaired during pregnancy because of poor gallbladder flow and other hormonal imbalances. And so this is where I really do believe that as women, we should set our mind to a 4 to 6 month prep period pre-pregnancy. Also, and this of course is personal choice, but just keep in mind that ancient cultures practice this, so we should maybe take a hint. And they took 2 to 3 year breaks in between pregnancies in order to regain their strength. This is for a reason, you guys. Our children take 10% of our minerals from us. And if we get pregnant right away, very quickly, we don't even have enough minerals for our own health, let alone to give to our next child. And so this is why a lot of times the firstborn is much smarter than the third or fourth born. It's for a reason. So we need to keep in mind that how we treat our bodies pre-pregnancy, how healthy we are pre-pregnancy, is going to affect the birth. It's going to affect how we recover. And that's just how it is. So when the women that come to me that are having a hard time with postpartum recovery, I know that they were not healthy pre-pregnancy, and that's why they're having a hard time. Does the K2 and the aspirin time of day matter? No, I don't believe so. I usually just take it in the morning with my supplements. What are your thoughts on CBD oil? I like it for anxiety. It really is dependent on the person. Some people do not see CBD oil helping them at all, which is fine. Don't take it. And then some people love it. So it just really depends on the person. For me, I don't take it daily, but I have some. And I take it when I'm pretty anxious. So if I feel a little anxiety or feel weird, I'm just kind of everything's overwhelming me or stressing me out, which happens, then I'll take some and I kind of feel pretty relaxed. But yeah, I don't take it daily because I just don't have a need for it. But some people who have pain or things like that really do see a benefit. Hi Jess, miss you. I tested positive for H. pylori. Is it possible to eradicate it other than antibiotics? Yeah, a lot of people actually can't eradicate it with antibiotics. Sometimes it is very helpful to eradicate it with antibiotics, but if you can't, then things like mastic gum really, really help. I like mastic gum, monolaurin, and what else do I like? I like proteolytic enzymes for breaking down biofilms. Thoughts on valerian root? Naturopath told me it would likely cause more fatigue before it gets better, but wholly tired. It depends. Some people don't react to adaptogens very well at all. That would be like valerian, ashwagandha, rhodiola, lemon balm, passion flower, those types of herbs. Some people, they have a certain metabolism type. It's usually fast oxidizers that do not react to adaptogens well. So keep in mind that 80% of the population is going to be a slow oxidizer, but there is the 20% that is a fast oxidizer, and those people don't tend to react to adaptogens well. So it just kind of depends. What can help with mono after effects? I tire very easily, had severe acne out of nowhere, and now my hair is falling out. I take monolaurin and other supplements, B vitamins, hormone balance. Yeah, it really depends. Like a lot of people that suffer with like viruses like EBV, they can't keep them under control. Their immune system can't suppress them. It can have a lot to do with the gut. It can have a lot to do with detoxification. It can have a lot to do with heavy metals. I mean, it can have a lot to do with a lot of different things, and it's really hard to know without actually looking deeper. Because you're doing all the quote unquote right things, monolaurin, B vitamins, and so at that point, it's like, is there biofilms? Are there really bad biofilms? That would be something that I would look into. Is there heavy metal toxicity or mineral imbalance? A lot of times viruses, we don't realize, but our viruses have been really, like when we fight mono or we're going through a period of where we're actually fighting a virus, we are very depleted. We get depleted of magnesium and potassium and sodium and even phosphorus sometimes, and we absolutely need to replenish those minerals in order to strengthen up the adrenals and strengthen up the thyroid. And if we don't do that, our endocrine glands can kind of be very, very weak, and even though maybe our body has fought the virus, we're kind of left in this very devastated state, and we need to actually rebuild our defenses. Had it 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't healed and you haven't felt like you've healed, then that would be something I'd look into, like testing your hormones, like doing a Dutch test specifically for the cortisol, or even like I like to do HTMAs to see where your main minerals are. Now I have a lot more questions. I thought I was prepping for pregnancy, but maybe I wasn't as healthy pre-babe as I thought. I'm trying not to focus on my weight loss, but my doc is beating it into my head post preeclampsia. Should I get my thyroid checked or anything else? It just kind of depends. Like preeclampsia is caused by low progesterone. We already know that. So you know that you had low progesterone during pregnancy if you had preeclampsia. Eclampsia, bleeding problems, those are all usually driven by estrogen dominance. So it's important to understand that. Like I've had multiple women come through that have struggled with preeclampsia, and it's understanding that it was a metabolic problem in the first place, and it's still a metabolic problem even though you're not struggling with preeclampsia anymore. There are like side effects of a very stressful birth. And so, of course, listen to your doctor. You want to make sure you're losing weight, but usually what's their recommendation? Like, dude, I'm working on losing weight. Like, give me some time. What do you expect? Like, do you want me to run a marathon or something? Like, what's going on? Like, that's what I do. If my doctor's pressuring me to do something, I say, look, like, what do you want me to do? I'm working on it. I'm counting my calories, I'm counting my macros, I'm exercising every day. What else do you want me to do? And a lot of times they're like, okay, like, gosh, you gotta give it to them straight. A lot of times, guys, we treat doctors like they're gods. They're human beings. They're just human beings that got a certain type of education that for some reason our society like goes like, oh, above everything else. And it's like, dude, room for human error. Stop letting them stomp all over you. And I hope that that doctor is as fit as possible, because if they're not, you should say, like, you should start losing weight too. I'm noticing some rolls. So, if they're being rude to you, you have permission to be rude back. They work for you, you pay them, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, we've got to stop, what else are you supposed to do? That's like the bottom line is, what are you supposed to do? It sounds to me like you're working really hard on weight loss and taking care of your body. And I would make sure you get your thyroid check. Demand a full thyroid panel that includes free T3, reverse T3, TPO antibodies. We want to check our progesterone levels. If you're cycling already, if you're not breastfeeding anymore, your cycle has come back, you want to test those progesterone levels 5 to 7 days post-ovulation. And then you also want to get prolactin checked. If you're breastfeeding or you're post-pregnancy, prolactin is huge, because prolactin is a dopamine suppressor, and it can actually be a complete huge stress hormone. So we need to make sure our prolactin levels are good. Do you know of a good vitamin D supplement safe for pregnancy? We don't get very much sun or daylight here in the winter. If I was in a darker place, I would probably invest in some incandescent lights. and just switch all the bulbs in my house to incandescents, because those do provide some of the benefits that sunlight's going to bring. I would even invest in a lizard lamp. Those are UVBs that are actually, they're going to help you produce vitamin D. You want to be very careful with them. Don't burn under them. And that's what I would do. And then I would maybe supplement a little bit with some type of liquid vitamin D like Carlson's. But I would kind of mix it up, just because just straight vitamin D supplementation is not as beneficial as getting actual light, or if you can't get sunlight, light. Is 10,000 units of vitamin D plus K2, is this too much vitamin D? Yes, usually it is, unless you need the vitamin D. Keep in mind that vitamin D is very calcifying to our body, and I'm actually going to do a post on this week. Vitamin D loss, or being low in vitamin D, is not just a vitamin D problem. It is the fact that the body has actually lowered vitamin D for a purpose, to stop calcifying your body. A lot of times it starts with calcium issue, then a depletion in vitamin K2, then a magnesium deficiency, then a potassium deficiency. Usually a boron deficiency occurs, and then the body wants to stop. There's increasing levels of calcium going into the bloodstream, and so the body wants to stop calcifying all the tissues and the arteries and things like that, and so it will lower vitamin D on purpose so that you stop calcifying everything. And so taking vitamin D is completely defeating what the body's trying to do. And so a lot of times vitamin D deficiency is due to a pattern of mineral loss that has gotten us to vitamin D deficiency, and if we take too much vitamin D, it calcifies everything, our whole body. Does anyone know she answered the question about antidepressants? I had to leave for a bit. Yes, I did. I pretty much said read A Mind of Your Own by Dr. Kelly Brogan, and take care of your body. Pretty much check your thyroid, check your progesterone levels post antidepressants. Does high triglycerides necessarily mean insulin resistance if blood sugar levels are normal and have been? No. High triglycerides can sometimes mean thyroid issues. It can sometimes mean that there's like gut issues going on. Detoxification. A lot of times like an implementation of some type of fiber can help with triglycerides. I always have that afternoon slump. I eat a well-balanced diet. What would be causing this? It could be that you're maybe not getting enough sunlight during the first half of the day. You're sitting all day. It could be that you aren't breathing deeply, so like you're not bringing enough oxygen. It could be that you are eating too low carb the first half of the day and need a little bit more carbohydrate and sugar. Sometimes we need to snack a little more often, keep blood sugar balanced. So that's just me throwing a few things out there. How many drops of oregano when you're fighting sickness? 3 times per day. Sometimes I'll take I get crazy with it and I'll do 30 drops, but some people tell me that literally burnt my esophagus, Jessica, and I'm like, sorry. So I will take 20 to 30 drops just because I have the too much gene, and I want to kick sickness in the booty, and I do not want to get sick, so I will go a little crazy with it, but I'll do 20 to 30 drops a couple times a day. So is it okay to take antibiotics for H. pylori? Do you mind saying those supplements again, please? What did I say? Mastic gum, Manuka honey, and monolaurin tend to be a good ones for fighting H. pylori, and then you want to break down the biofilms with proteolytic enzymes. But yeah, I think taking antibiotics for H. pylori is fine. A lot of times it doesn't eradicate H. pylori, unfortunately, but if it does, great. Bedtime snacks that aren't hard on blood sugar. If blood sugar is high in the morning when you wake up, then keep in mind you've been fasting for 8 hours, so it's probably not what you ate. It's most likely cortisol, growth hormones, adrenaline that are driving stress hormones up. There are hormones that actually cause your body to start breaking itself down. But I really like some cheese and fruit. That's one of my favorites. I'll do a half a cup of cottage cheese with some peaches or any type of fruit. What else do I do? I will do some whipped cream with a little maple syrup in it. I just make a big thing of whipped cream and have a little maple syrup in it and put that on some berries. Those are kind of my favorites. Or sometimes I'll dip some dark chocolate in some ghee. Or I'll do some ghee stuffed dates as well. Most of the recommendation ones from FN are great. I just was wondering if there anywhere better to eat for insulin resistance. Keep in mind, guys, that insulin resistance is not driven by sugar. I know it's like been ingrained into our heads. Keep in mind that insulin is the hormone that the pancreas secretes to allow blood sugar into the cell. Insulin is a hormone that our body is supposed to respond to, and when the cells are not responding to insulin, it has nothing to do with the sugar. It has everything to do with the fact that the cells are not responding. This is usually due to inflammation. This is due to estrogen dominance and low progesterone. This is due to mineral deficiencies like magnesium and B vitamins. This is due to tons of toxins coming from the gut or an overburdened liver. Very often has to do with adrenal stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, and has very little to do with sugar. So just keep in mind that we need to stop fearing sugar, and we have to start dealing with the problems. And when we stop eating carbs or sugar, our insulin levels go down because our body didn't need to respond to carbs. But in the meantime, our cells were starving for fuel. And so when we go back to eating carbs, we tend to have made our insulin resistance worse because we now forced our body to burn free fatty acids, which is more inflammatory and causes further insulin resistance. So it's very important to eat whole food sources of carbohydrates and to combine them with saturated fats and protein while working on the things that actually drive insulin resistance. But yeah, if you want to keep it low sugar, you would want to do like whole roots and fruits. Like a half a sweet potato with some coconut butter and cinnamon is a really a good favorite. And I would stay away from this like grain-based starches. That's the biggest thing. Doing a full-time master's degree plus working part-time. This will be going for a year. Any tips for such busy and kind of stressful lifestyle? Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of choose your priorities. When you're in a busy time of life, you choose. And they say you could do it all, but you can't do it all. And so it's really important to choose what you prioritize and what's important to you. I choose, whenever I'm in a busy season of life, I choose my health always. I choose my health over social outings. I choose my health over hanging out with friends all the time. And I might allow myself like one social outing and one friend outing a week. Not because I'm like unhealthy, but because if I go out more, I know I'm going to sacrifice sleep. I'm probably not going to eat very well. I'm going to drink more than I want to, and I'm going to regret it in the morning. I also prioritize exercise, even though sometimes we say like, oh my God, I don't have time to exercise. And even if you can get it in like for 20 minutes, 3 times a week, you feel so much better when you do it. So I always prioritize sleep, always prioritize exercise, always prioritize getting at least 3 solid meals in a day. If the snacks go by the wayside, they go by the wayside. And just good hydration. And I kind of save the rest of it for another time. I try not to go overboard and just keep things as simple as possible and uncomplicated. Thanks for answering my question. Please save this live. I'll come back later to watch back when you answered it. Yeah, I will. So my vitamin D levels were at 13. My doctor didn't say I was deficient in anything else. Should I supplement as was told to do, or do I now worry about too much calcifying? I think that's really a personal choice. I think vitamin D should be at least around 40, so supplementing can sometimes help with symptoms. But keep in mind that blood levels of minerals mean nothing just because the body pulls from the cells into the blood to keep things balanced. So we could be intracellularly mineral deficient without actually seeing that on a blood test. But yeah, vitamin D should usually be at least around 40, and sometimes supplementing it can be helpful. But if you see things like kidney stones and stuff like that, then you kind of want to keep an eye out. And then for anyone that didn't get their pre-submitted questions answered, I had so many questions come in live, which I love. I will make sure that I answer them over the course of tomorrow. So I'll kind of just write them in on my story, so you guys can get most of your questions answered. Oh, what can I do about really dry red eyes? It could be a few different things. A lot of times it has to do with a vitamin E or vitamin A deficiency. Sometimes it can have actually something to do with hormones. Eyes are very connected to hormones. So things, imbalances in progesterone or estrogen or blood sugar can cause really dry eyes. High adrenaline and cortisol can also cause dry mouth and dry eyes. So dry mucous membranes in general. So, because it pulls moisture from those areas. So it could be a few things. It could be anywhere from just like you don't react to your environment well, you need to sleep in a more humid environment, so maybe use a humidifier, or it could go as far as being like mineral or hormone issues. So it's hard to say, but that's all going to be speculation. What are your thoughts on progesterol brand of progesterone oil? I've heard good things, but I've never used it personally. I know that it has a lot of good reviews, so let me know if you use it. I'm not sure. I've never used it before. All right, guys, I appreciate your time. I'm going to save this live and upload these lives to YouTube on Friday night after my Friday morning live. So I'll see you soon. Probably will do a story tomorrow, and you guys will see me tomorrow. Love you.